It's time to burn it down with Seth Rollins is 2017. Okay, so heading into this, we had a feud with Triple H, which wasn't really doing anything because they started in September, did not do anything with it months later, and are now finally getting into it as it finally nears WrestleMania season. So with this statement, Rollins announces his participation in the Royal Rumble match via Twitter on January 9th. However, just before that pay-per-view, he would lose the opportunity to be in that match because he lost to Sami Zayn after a distraction from Triple H and got replaced by him. Thus, Seth Rollins, in his anger and frustration, and trying to basically look for Triple H because Triple H's music was there, so clearly he might be there as well. Like real backstage-wise he was, but in terms of story he wasn't. And then Seth Rollins, in his act of defiance and also promoting the show of the enemy in Vince's eyes, appeared on NXT TakeOver San Antonio, calling out Triple H because he knew that regardless of the fact that they don't really acknowledge it much, that Triple H is basically the father of NXT. They kind of really did bring this up in the show for once. They had him show up a couple of times on NXT, but really you could make the argument he was still CEO when those were happening, so they couldn't do that. Except that one time when after he got removed from the authority power, he showed up at NXT R Evolution and was seen praising Sami Zayn after he got attacked by Kevin Owens. So, yeah. But like I said, Vince treats it like it's a different universe. So, yeah, Rollins calls out Triple H. And, oh god, it was awesome. And he even references that, yeah, this is where all this started for him. NXT, his home. He may be a main eventer, albeit being lukewarm receptions at best after his Triple H feud was over. But then, because of this, he got banned from being at the Royal Rumble Arena show that night. Which honestly, I thought, since that threat really doesn't work that much anymore, except on SmackDown Live with James Ellsworth and Daniel Bryan, but that's a different matter, which I will not get into. Rollins didn't show up, but I was surprised he didn't because I was expecting him to show up when Triple H would show up in the Royal Rumble match, because I did think that Triple H was going to be in the Royal Rumble match and Seth Rollins would attack him and get him eliminated. That didn't happen. Surprisingly, they gave restraint on that. And then afterwards, on January 30th, he confronts Stephanie McMahon and basically references doing the Tommy Wiseau of, anyway, how's your sex life? Where he says that Stephanie disappoints Triple H every single night when they're together. And then Seth Rollins makes this huge threat where he'll go to New York, he'll go to WWE headquarters, attack everybody in sight if it means getting what he wants, and causing the suit and ties in New York to get weary. And then the icing on the cake, he threatened Triple H's children. Like, he didn't directly say he would fight them or beat them up. He did imply it when he said, or better yet, how about I come to your house and one of your little kids answers the door. And considering the fact that he's willing to fight all the suit and ties of the corporate execs, when I would be all for, since they're basically killing the company because Vince is an idiot, you basically imply hitting a child. We are supposed to like you, right? And then Triple H finally shows up and explains his motive of why he betrayed Seth Rollins, and really this came about way too late, even though the explanation made sense to me, but at the same time it took it took you like 8 months to finally do something after him being gone for so long? So, yeah. And he called out Seth Rollins, and sure enough, Seth Rollins went to fight him and gets ambushed from Samoa Joe. And then I didn't mention this in the video because I didn't hear about it until after I had made that video. But when Samoa Joe got him in the Coquilla clutch and choked him out, Rollins had re-injured his knee, and this was legit. So he's gone for a while, and everyone was worried that he probably will miss WrestleMania, but surprisingly, Rollins on February 27th, explained his knee injury to Corey Graves, and then was confronted by Triple H and Samoa Joe telling him he would do not come to WrestleMania. But he said he will be at WrestleMania, and then he returned on March 13th, able to do limited work, albeit dangerously, and to save McFoley from Triple H's wrath, signifying he was cleared by the doctors, but it wasn't confirmed yet, but was attacked by Triple H once more, aggravating his already damaged knee. And that got me worried. And then we got this huge contract signing between Triple H and Seth Rollins, where Triple H goes into religious symbolism, sort of, where he says, if you're a millionaire, you're evil. If you're a billionaire, you're the Antichrist. And considering that Vince is friends with a certain billionaire who's in politics right now and is at the top without any experience whatsoever, and considering at this time he was running in the election, is they're implying that's what they think that people think about that guy? Really? So yeah, moving on from that, but this would lead to their non-sanctioned match at WrestleMania 33 after Rollins has signed a hold harmless agreement where he wouldn't sue the company if he got permanently injured, which he signed, I must stress. And sure enough, WWE Creative Humor, a Twitter account, jokingly quoted as if Daniel Bryan was saying, hey, about those hold harmless agreements. And then Bryan actually responded to that tweet saying, and everyone once again says, Daniel Bryan, the king of no longer giving a shit. So, yeah. But way to go on that. So, this led to their non-sanctioned match at WrestleMania. A pretty awesome match. And Rollins finally got what he wanted. He wanted to be the Seth Rollins he used to be, and he defeated Triple H by executing the pedigree. So, yeah, after that, Rollins would restart his feud with Samoa Joe, which was supposed to happen at Fastlane, but he managed to defeat him at Payback on April 30th to give Joe his first single loss on the main roster, which surprised me. I thought for sure they would give it to, Roman Reigns, because, Roman Reigns is God to Vince. And then, following weeks later, Seth Rollins would subsequently try to gain the IC title division. However, Samoa Joe would stop that, so it led to him fighting again with Samoa Joe, but this time with Reigns, Wyatt, and Balor, and Samoa Joe won. And then Samoa Joe just went ahead and destroyed everybody during his build-up with Brock Lesnar, which honestly was a major disappointment. Not the build-up, more like the match itself. So, yeah. And Rollins and Reigns, at this point, were already on the same page with one another. And even Roman Reigns went out to try and avenge Seth Rollins by fighting Samoa Joe. And he surprisingly lost, albeit with Braun Strowman saving the day for Joe. So, yeah. I was surprised by that. And sure enough, following Extreme Rules, Rollins went into a feud with Bray Wyatt. That went nowhere. In fact, Rollins had admitted, originally the feud was going to go somewhere, but then they just stopped it. And I'm like, wait, why did they stop it? Well, why? Yeah, I've been always wondering that. Rollins even said they never gave him a reason. Which only leads me to think, is it because it's Bray Wyatt and Vince hates him, and the fact that Bray Wyatt got over in this match, in the Great Balls of Fire match? Was that the reason? So, yeah, I don't know what the whole story about that is. And, yeah, and Rollins, around this time, responded to a fan tweet saying, man, I wish The Rock and Rollins would happen. And then Rollins says, well, WrestleMania is a year away, which led to the entire internet blowing up saying, oh, are they really going to do it? Rollins versus The Rock? And that sadly will not be happening because The Rock never talked about it. In fact, he's been mostly talking about, hey, I would love to fight Roman Reigns. However, Hollywood doesn't want me to wrestle ever again. Like, I could show up and beat people up, but I just can't wrestle. Yeah. So, yeah, and, yeah, this would lead to a number of key events heading into SummerSlam after Great Balls of Fire and after Rollins lost his second match with Bray Wyatt. And ultimately, that feud meant nothing. So, after this, he would start this little problem with the Bar and the Miz and the Miztourage. Mostly, he started a problem with the Bar, and then he had a pretty awesome match with Cesaro and Sheamus. And then ultimately, he went ahead and saved his former longtime friend Dean Ambrose from an attack by the Miztourage. And Rollins couldn't get Ambrose's trust, and I'm like, oh my god, we're getting continuity here? Holy crap! Like, they didn't even do that with Reigns and Rollins. They just got back together as buddies, and there never was a storyline for that, even though that really should have happened. But no. We're getting stale Dean Ambrose and lukewarm Seth Rollins, because around this time his momentum was starting to cool after being Triple H. And yeah, they're really doing this? They're really going to bring logic into the storyline and reference the incident from several years back? Okay, this could be interesting. So, then this cut this a very awesome promo. And here's the thing that got me interested. Rollins, after trying to convince Ambrose that, look, I get it. You don't trust me. I understand. I get that. But I want to be your friend again, pretty much. Rollins offered Ambrose to attack him with the steel chair as retribution for the betrayal. And here's the thing, and what I'm about to say might make people shocked. I actually agreed with Vince Russo on this. I actually thought Ambrose should have done that. Ambrose should have struck Rollins with the chair, as if to really get this emotion across. But no, Ambrose, for some reason, just threw the chair out of the ring, and then they were ambushed by our everyday friends, The Miz and the Miztourage, which resulted in General Manager Kurt Angle scheduling a 2-on-3 handicap match the following week. And Ambrose and Rollins once again proved why they are an awesome tag team, and winning and looking like they were still in sync. But Rollins offered to fist bump with him, do the signature shield move. Ambrose then just like smiles and looks like he wants to do it, and then just like, nah, fuck it, I don't trust you. And then afterwards, Cesaro and Sheamus start to get more involved with this budding friendship once more. Ambrose once again doesn't want to trust Rollins, and understandably so. Rollins wants to get Ambrose's acceptance and let him accept his apology. Even though he does admit that Ambrose has a legitimate reason why Ambrose doesn't want to be buddies with him. And sure enough, this led to one segment where Ambrose and Rollins were in an interview segment with Renee Young, and Ambrose even admits that, yeah, it was cool teaming up with you again. And even if these people want it, even if all these fans want it, even if maybe a small part of me wants this, I actually like that. It actually, gives me character development for these guys. And afterwards, Rollins and Ambrose would do single matches, but be ultimately beaten down by Cesaro and Sheamus. And they were all pretty awesome matches. And eventually they would get a title match at SummerSlam, but the two still hated each other. And then on August 14th, on my birthday, they reunited after them both getting into a fight with each other until Cesaro and Sheamus ruined everything. And caused them to say, you know what, F it, let's do it. And it got a loud ovation. They built this up for weeks. You would think they would just do it, and just act like what happened in the past doesn't really matter anymore. Even though it kind of does. And yeah, the build-up was worth it. And with this reformed alliance, Cesaro and Sheamus, the Bar, versus the reformed duo of Rollins and Ambrose, I can't call them the Shield yet, even though I would want to, they would finally face off at SummerSlam, and it was an awesome match. specifically what Cesaro did that made it even more memorable, where he decides, seeing that ball, those audience, who I will call as jackasses, were throwing around, disrespecting the show. Like, I'm alright with the one fall chance, that at least gets them in the show, and it is related to the show. But the ball thing, I didn't like that one bit. Like, Cena only encouraged it after SummerSlam, that didn't help much, and now they've banned it. But Cesaro, he decides to break character in his frustration and get out. Like, during the matchup, he gets out. He gets off the ropes since he wasn't the legal man in the match. Run to the beach ball, grab it, tear it to shreds, and audience is like, "Oh my god, that was awesome!" Like, I was thinking that was absolutely hilarious. And sure enough, I had no problems with it. But sure enough, Ambrose and Rollins defeated Cesaro and Sheamus to win the Raw Tag Team Championships. So, due to the fact that you got the Bar and the Miztourage causing more problems for them, this led to a rematch between the two teams at No Mercy, which was also an awesome match, especially made for the fact that Cesaro, in the first 5 minutes, had his gums and teeth damaged. And now he's forced to wear a protection, and he's being forced to talk because Vince finds it funny for some reason. That's at least what I'm hearing. Yeah, that doesn't work. But like I said, first 5 minutes of the match, Ambrose throws him, and he lands on the steel post and not the turnbuckle, and his mouth was open, and his teeth just got pushed into his gums, and I was like, oh god. But here's the thing. He finished the damn match. He still had like close to nearly 20 minutes. Still needs to finish that match. And I'm like, okay, let's see if I get this straight. Cesaro gets teeth lodged up into his gums. He can finish the match. Sin Cara breaks a ring finger. He can't finish the match. Really? Like, I get trying to protect the wrestler's health. I get that, but really, the ring finger happened and that stopped a match? Yes, Cesaro can go out and finish a match even though his mouth is busted? Yeah. That's honestly pretty amazing. And during this, Reigns was starting to get problems with The Miz after No Mercy, leading to eventually when The Miz went ahead and insulted the Shield, beat him up, mocked the Shield pose, and then did it again with the Shield entrance, and with the combined efforts of the Bar, they ultimately destroyed our mortal enemies of Reigns. Mostly fans who hate him. So, yeah. And this would lead to an pretty awesome moment backstage where Reigns is all angry, he's frustrated, he's trying to think of a way to defeat them, and then you see Rollins emerge with his arms crossed, then you see Ambrose emerge, just being his lunatic self, and it's like they all look at each other, and some of them were nodding, and they were nodding their heads, like, it's time. And thus, we get the reformation of the Shield, as Reigns would officially come out with his buddies on October 9th to start war with virtually everybody. They start war with Strowman, they started war with the Bar, they started war with the Miztourage, and now they're out, and now Reigns, because he defeated The Undertaker, has to face Kane now. However, Reigns got sick, so Kurt Angle took his place. And I did love this part where Ambrose and Rollins, although they wanted to be with their buddy, they're glad that, look, Kurt Angle, you haven't wrestled in 10 years, but you wanted to do this for us. We respect that. And they gave him the Shield outfit. And I honestly thought that never should have happened, because when Kurt Angle came out with the Shield, it was weird the way he did it. Like, the way he was acting, it's like the father is like, hey, I'm with the cool kids. I'm with my kids now. See, I'm hanging out with them. It's like the dad trying to be cool for his son. Or in this case, sons. And it's just so a little cartoonish to me. It just looked weird. Yeah, like, Ambrose and Rollins are all serious, and that's how the Shield always used to be. Occasionally with some humor, but Kurt Angle, he's just going all humor for this, like, entrance. But here's the weird thing. On the final Raw, they brought back the Shield theme music, and I was thinking, shouldn't they have saved that for pay-per-view? I was honestly thinking they were going to save that for pay-per-view. And also, on October 16th, Ambrose and Rollins would fight The Bar again for the tag team titles and retain, which was an awesome match once again, wearing their Shield getup. And they would also get involved in their fight with The Miz, Taraj, and The Bar during the Braun Strowman Reigns cage match, which ultimately failed miserably because Kane came to make the save. And I did love this moment where, here's the thing I found very funny. Okay, Curtis Axel is encouraged by Braun Strowman to beat up Roman Reigns and the rest of the Shield. I love how the heels are acting. Like, Strowman trying to be all serious even though he should know that this is supposed to be a funny angle. And then you got Cesaro and Sheamus just like, well, I don't know about where he's at, but I do believe the Axeman is single-handedly destroying the Shield. And this just feels like, wait, what? Like, initially he's just smiling and like, oh, good. Wait, what? And then Strowman just looks at him and looks at The Miz and just says, you said you wanted to beat up Roman Reigns, so I told him to go do it. Yeah, and I loved how Curtis Axel, like, he's initially scared and whatnot, and it's like, okay, oh god, I think I'm never good at this. And then he's like, you know what, fuck it. I am trying to make relevancy here. I will be relevant, damn it! So he just toughens himself up and walks to the Shield and goes to commercial afterwards. And I was like, he's dead. No, he's dead. He is physically dead at this point. And then when we got back to Curtis Axel when The Miz was looking for him, we see Curtis Axel hung upside down unconscious because it's the Shield. But here's the weirdest thing about that whole thing. When I saw it, I suddenly remembered, wait, the guy has been reverse crucified, and he's being hung by rope on something and lifted in the air, but he's not bleeding. And let's see, Rollins was in a group that was like that. They would beat up people, hang them upside down, but have blood being poured on the leader of the group. Oh wait, isn't that the group where the certain writer who was fired just a few weeks ago around this time is best friends with Rollins? Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I was seriously hoping, oh, please tell me Rollins did that because that's a personal fuck you to Vince for firing him over Bullet Club pictures. Please say that was the reason. But I felt like that was also a homage to Tyler Black's run as the Age of the Fall member, which was an awesome faction. I've been trying to find the video of their debut, and hopefully if they ever got HD remastered, but no, sadly, we just get the original footage, all low quality at best, since this was years ago. But yeah, so Ambrose and Rollins, after Kurt Angle is eliminated for like most of the match, they're being destroyed by Strowman, Kane, and everyone else. And sure enough, Rollins and Ambrose are still fighting and trying to like never say die mentality. And I always wondered what the match would have been like if they had Roman Reigns. Which always made me curious. Would Strowman really have fought Kane? Or would they have just went with Reigns versus Kane and Strowman does something else with The Miz and The Bar? That would have made more sense. But, yeah. And sure enough, but however, Kurt Angle would make the save because we gotta do the Brock Lesnar maneuver, except we have more legitimate reasons because Kurt Angle has a history of nagging injuries and they feared that he would do something crazy just to make the match memorable. So, immediately following some TLC, Rollins and Ambrose, after saving their buddy Kurt Angle and Temporal Shield member, they go ahead and get horribly team up with Styles which would kickstart something that I feared would happen and would ultimately be the ultimate insult to continuity and common sense this year in the year alone. But Rollins and Ambrose would team up with Styles, and then Styles, along with SmackDown Live, beat the living hell out of them after they tried to use equalizers, aka steel chairs, and ultimately failed in being overtaken, though they did get a couple of shots on the New Day. And following that, during the road to Survivor Series, with Reigns still gone, they would enter they were originally supposed to be in a match with the Usos, and originally the Usos wanted that match. Months ago, they were saying, hey, let's do Ambrose and Rollins versus the Uso Penitentiary. The Shield versus the Uso Penitentiary, which would have been an awesome match. However, they would lose the titles back to Cesaro and Sheamus due to the New Day's interference. However, around this time, due to Reigns being sick, over the weeks before Reigns' return on the final Raw before Survivor Series, Seth Rollins and Ambrose did some things that was, like I said, the ultimate insult to logic and continuity. And if you think, oh, because it's house shows, therefore they don't count, they've acknowledged it on the WWE YouTube channel, so clearly this is canon, if you go with this logic, where Seth Rollins and Ambrose, The Shield, go ahead and get several people to dress up in the Shield outfit while Reigns is gone. One of them being Kurt Angle. Okay, you know, they were buddies at TLC, that makes sense. Then they got Triple H, who Rollins just had a few months ago with. That it was a 2-year storyline at best. No, wait, 3 years. It was a 3-year storyline since 2014. And now they're buddies all of a sudden? And then I was like, okay. Like, it did lead to a pretty funny moment where Triple H looks like he's going to do a suicide dive, even though we've never seen him use that before. And instead he just gets out of the ring and just punches Bray Wyatt. Like, yeah, fuck it. But yeah, the logic made no sense. And then it made even less sense. Well, Triple H actually made less sense, but the other thing made even more nonsense to the nonsense. Where Rollins and Ambrose made Samoa Joe an honorary Shield teammate for their match. And I must stress, Samoa Joe and Triple H are heels. Samoa Joe nearly injured Rollins and made him miss WrestleMania. In context to the storytelling maneuver, Rollins should not trust him. But sure enough, they did. And considering what happened in December, that really should be like, what's going on here? Like, what the fuck happened? So, yeah, this would lead to a match after Reigns' return that they want the New Day. And it was an awesome match. Well, sadly, I wanted Xavier Woods to do what he did at Hell in a Cell with the Usos, except without the weapon-based thing, but it would have still been awesome. And honestly, I want Xavier Woods to actually be a main event star now. Especially after his never say die moment in Hell in a Cell. And then, during the month of December, they didn't have a pay-per-view show. So, yeah, that sadly didn't happen. So, Raw was in lazy mode, whereas SmackDown at least was trying to put effort in. So, Rollins and Ambrose were gunning for the Raw Tag Team titles again. However, and remember who I mentioned earlier? Yeah, Samoa Joe screws them. I must stress that they've acknowledged that they were teaming up at a house show. So, yep, we're back to illogical nonsense. And so much so that Ambrose would sadly get injured, because apparently he had an injury that's been lasting for a little bit, and now it's been led up to now it's gotten worse, and now he's had surgery. They say he's going to be gone for 9 months, but reports are saying that might have been exaggerated just to make Ambrose's return awesome, like they did with Strowman, so it stands to reason they probably doing this. Since initial reports said that, oh, it's just 2 months. He'll be perfectly fine. He'll be back in time for WrestleMania. And then WWE is saying, oh, no, it's 9 months. Even though we said this beforehand with 6 months for Strowman, but that didn't happen. He returned in less than a month. Actually, a month and 3 days. So, yeah. Rollins and Reigns don't have their buddy Ambrose anymore. Reigns would go cross more to his darker self when he went to war with Samoa Joe, which was kind of awesome. And then on the first Raw 2018, that sadly ended, something that they could have done, but sadly WWE hates that. Hates giving more storylines for 10 years and build it up for a pay-per-view. But yeah, back to 2017 Rollins. Rollins would fight the Bar one more time at the end of the year for the tag team titles with Jason Jordan. And they won. Because beforehand, Jason Jordan and Rollins and Ambrose were teaming up because they had beef with the Bar and Samoa Joe. And yeah, Rollins and Jason Jordan just didn't like each other. And they somehow win their match. And then, like, I feared, like, wait, so are they doing this mentor storyline with Rollins and Jason Jordan? Because even though Rollins has been at this game since 2005, and Jason Jordan has been at this game since, let's see, what was the year he started wrestling? Okay, I'm waiting for this thing to load up. But, yeah, he's been at this game since 2011, and that's a 6-year gap. I get that, but at the same time, Rollins is only 31 and Jason Jordan's only 29. Yeah, so really that doesn't make sense to me. Like, yeah, Rollins has been at this game longer, but at the same time he's never been in WWE as long as, well, that. Like, didn't Rollins start his time in WWE in 2010? It was only a year after that Jason Jordan arrived. But they were both in developmental, and then the NXT thing happened. So yeah. I still don't get this whole mentorship they're going to do, and also Rollins would team up with Finn Balor, who he accidentally injured last year, with Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens to end their year off, to end WrestleMania season and the initial brand extension. Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. Also, something happened in, when Jason Jordan and Rollins won that match. A report came out a few days later, before the new year started, that Jason Jordan wasn't originally supposed to be the guy to team up with Rollins. Originally, they wanted Finn Balor to do it, but Vince changed it. Now, I could go ahead and explain why that is the dumbest idea, but here's the thing. I'm actually I thought about it more before going into a huge rant about it in my private time, when I was basically doing nothing. But then I thought about it, wait, Finn Balor got nothing to do. Let's say this tag team did happen. Once it ended, because originally there was 2 reasons why the Shield formed. Surprisingly, it wasn't just to make Roman Reigns look strong, though that was one of the reasons. The other reason was because they originally wanted Ambrose to turn heel, betray Seth Rollins, and go on to fight him at WrestleMania. And now that's been caused into question because he's gone for either 2 months or 9 months. So if they do the 2-month thing, he'll be back. But if the 9-month thing, he'll be back till SummerSlam, I think. But think about this. If Ambrose does come back in 2 months, Jason Jordan still has a storyline to do. The whole illegitimate son of Kurt Angle, and they can still do a WrestleMania match together, if that's the idea they're going with, hopefully, and not Triple H and Kurt Angle. Ambrose and Seth have something to do. What would Finn Balor be doing? Like, yeah, it would give him something to do, but after that, what else is left to do? Like, what? You think Vince is going to put him in the main event? He doesn't think he's over enough to beat Brock Lesnar, or at least fight him. And, like, yeah, you could make the argument, oh, well, maybe they could Finn Balor versus Reigns after WrestleMania. Okay, I get Finn Balor beat him on their first fight, and that was a clean victory, and then Reigns beat him in a clean match. But that was when Finn Balor was still over. Could you really imagine Vince really wanting to put Finn Balor to fight Roman Reigns for the main event for the Universal Championship when he believes he's not over enough to even fight Lesnar. Even though Reigns is technically not over enough, just hated. So, yeah. So, Rollins had a pretty awesome year. It like, at first it was looking like it would be bad, but here's the thing. It led to Rollins becoming lukewarm, and then the whole Shield reunion happened. He's finally getting a lot of responses again. But, yeah. I'm curious, what's planned for WrestleMania if they can't get Ambrose back in time, if he can't heal up in time? Where does that leave Rollins? Like, they could probably do Finn Balor versus Rollins 2. That could be something, since, well, they got nothing to do, and at least Finn Balor does something at WrestleMania. But at the same time, it'd be more like a throwaway match than anything else. Like, yeah, it'd probably be an awesome match, but still kind of a throwaway match if you think about it. They're not going to put in the main event since, you know, they want to keep Reigns looking strong as possible. So, yeah, I don't know what's in store for Rollins heading in 2018. I don't know what's planned for him for WrestleMania. Like, Ambrose and Rollins was the plan. If Ambrose is able to come back in time, then yeah, we got something. But ultimately, if Ambrose can't make it back in time, I don't know what's left. Like, yeah. Like, they could do Triple H again, but he might be saved for Braun Strowman or Kurt Angle. And I've already talked about what matches I would like to see regarding Strowman, Kurt Angle, Triple H, and Jason Jordan. I already went down what they should be doing with it, but clearly they're not going to do that with Royal Rumble. So, yeah, they end the year off winning the tag team titles. And originally, Seth Rollins was penciled in to fight Lesnar at Great Balls of Fire just to get Lesnar strong. But then they decided, hey, let's give it to Samoa Joe, but ultimately do nothing with it. Yeah. So, honestly, I don't know what's in store for Rollins heading in 2018. It could be good, it could be bad, it could be nothing. I seriously hope it's good. And yeah, and I don't know. Like, I don't think they're going to turn him heel again so soon because he just recently returned being a face. So yeah, and after that redemption storyline he committed with Triple H, it'd be kind of dumb to just turn back to a heel after only a year being a face again. So yeah, they can't do that. So, yeah, really the only match I can think of that isn't Ambrose versus Rollins is really Rollins versus Finn Balor, since they got nothing for WrestleMania to do. So, yeah, and surprisingly, this is one of the more shorter videos I've committed about wrestling guys for the year. Probably because since I've talked about guys who are directly correlated to the storylines regarding Rollins, that shortens the video. That's like one of the key problems I have. Like, nothing really interesting in between that happens, but yeah, so basically my Ambrose video might be shorter when I get to that. So yeah, I've covered the big dog, I covered the man. Man, yeah. I mean, I've covered the guy, the man. So I'm just going to say this. I think it's only necessary we talk about the dude next. Oh, and speaking of which, he's also showed up in Up, Up, Down, Down and actually faced Styles in a sports game, which was awesome. And, oh man. But I really did like Seth Rollins this year, specifically during his month with feuding with Triple H when it finally got kickstarted again. And that was pretty much it for me. That was the biggest highlight. Like, he had a bunch of good matches afterwards, but really, it wasn't seemingly being taken as seriously as it could have been. And then when the Shield reformed, then it started getting serious again. But then all the injury happened, the illness happened, and the Shield's reunion just got basically worthless now. Like, they've been building this storyline up for years now. And sadly, Reigns got sick with the mumps or laryngitis. And Ambrose gets injured, gets an arm injury, which could wreck all the WrestleMania plans they had for Ambrose and Rollins. So, I don't know what's in store for Rollins, like I said. And, yeah, and considering how we don't know what's in store for Rollins, and considering he's still tag team champions for Jason Jordan, I think at best Jason Jordan might at best turn heel after getting annoyed with Rollins, since he's trying to do this mentor storyline, even though, like I said, it doesn't make sense to me. And that might lead to a match either at Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber. Though, really, they could still do the Kurt Angle match with Jason Jordan if they do it at Elimination Chamber. So, yeah, we're going to see how that goes. Like, I know Rollins and Jason Jordan could do a good match, but, yeah, Jason Jordan's closing in on the dark side. It must be pretty awesome being all dark. So, yeah, that's actually one of the funner stuff I got from Jason Jordan during a little bit of the last month or so. His dark side starting to come out, seep through after Survivor Series. Yeah. So, those were my thoughts on Neo Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to see more. And like I said, the dude is next.